So it changes your energy from the inside. So you become like the bell that rings, right? Like you bring a bell or a tuning fork, it's going to resonate out. So when you have that, then any frequency like EMF, cell phone radiation that comes within towards you won't have as much an effect. So you're basically more resilient.
This is Front and Center with your host, Jacquie Jordan.
Entertainment and pop culture expert Jacquie Jordan is with us.
Two-time Emmy-nominated Hollywood producer Jacquie Jordan.
We are the show where we talk with the change agents, the storytellers, and the activators, making impact from behind the scenes. Welcome to Front and Center. I'm Jacquie Jordan. We are the show where the change agents, the storytellers, and the activators making a difference from behind the scenes join us now, and they take their seat front and center. It's such a privilege to have you here today. We are sponsored by ST Energy Services, making positive connections. And you can find us here, follow us, or subscribe to us on Rumble, and of course, YouTube and any other platform that you listen to your favorite podcast. So in recent headlines, New York Times put out an article that presidential candidate and attorney Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Bobby, had a parasite in his brain. I guess it wasn't a big significant story that stuck around for a while, but then there's other news articles popping up saying that parasites are coming up through Mexico. Those of us in the health sovereignty community already know that, parasites exist. Most of us, anybody who has pets probably has parasites. And also in recent times, unless I'm not a doctor and I'm not qualified to give medical advice, but also with the recent last few years of health, there's a lot of parasites coming around in the body. I know for myself, I've had a dark field microscopy and have seen some in my own blood therefore. So I pay attention to it. And in terms of advocating for my own health, because that's all I could ever speak from, and I would tell more about my parasite story, but we don't know each other that well yet. I pay attention to what is the best way to stay healthy. And I've always asked the question, there's only so many supplements that we could possibly be taking right now in our body that our stomach can process through the stomach lining to keep us healthy when we're being bombarded with so many difficult environmental challenges from the air, the water, and the shots, the shedding and other things. So I have been exploring and investigating for myself and sharing this with you, but I'm really curious and believe that frequency medicine is where it's going to be and where it's at. And it's kind of also like dark field microscopy, an underground movement. You have to know people who are already participating in it. But it brings to light the podcast that Joe Rogan just did on the Joe Rogan Experience with Terrence Howard, where they also talked indirectly about this, or at least they talked about frequency and vibration and ether. And for those who are practicing these, different alternative medicines, as they call it, but I believe it's more in harmony in many ways to our own body temples and templates. Frequency is where it's at. We're being bombarded with EMFs and 5G, and those are all frequencies that, aren't in the best interest of our health and our being. So why couldn't positive frequency help be useful and healing to us? So that's a big believer of it. Of course, there's, RIFE, for anybody who knows about that, who has used, frequency. And of course, there's Vol. But today on Front and Center, joining us is the founder of Key Life, David Wong, a frequency expert himself. Thank you so much for joining us, David. So happy to have you here.
If everybody's heard of Dr. Royal Rife, he actually created a device that clinically healed 14 people from stage 4 cancer back in 1930. And his technology has been suppressed by Big Pharma, obviously, for the last 80 years. So what I've done is I was taking a look at all these technologies that have been around for some time and say, okay, how can we make a technology like this easy to use, accessible, even portable, that you can actually operate from your computer or your phone, And that's why we created. We created the Qi coil. Now we have tens of thousands of people around the world, lives completely transformed. Like, just think about it. What if there was a technology that has been hitting for 100 years, finally came about, that can transform any part of your person and your life? You can transform your physically, transform your mental health, transform your emotional health. Think about what it can do, even if it changes you 1% a day, right? Which is what we do, right? So how it works is basically, it's a coil. It looks like this. Okay, these are called Qi coils. Qi is the Chinese word for basically life force, right, or energy. And we have two coils, one yin, one yang. We explain this some other time. But basically, these generate magnetic energy with the frequencies. So when you just put them on a table, you don't even have to touch them. As long as you're in the room or near them, your body is getting reprogrammed. It's getting re-energized. Okay, it's just like if you hang around a bunch of really successful and really positive people like yourself, right? Then and listen to your podcast, you're gonna get all these positive vibes, and you're gonna feel better. You're gonna become a better person. But if you hang around a bunch of sick people that's negative and complaining or toxic, then you're gonna have that as well. So it works on a energetic level, but it's scientific because we know that frequencies can change how your brain works. We know that Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we're electromagnetic beings by birth, and I'm of the belief that we lived that this technology was already integrated positively into society, and that it's just been buried, and so has the history of it has been buried. To me, it's not new information; it's renewed information that's been suppressed.
Mm-hmm. So many people want to change their frequency, and a lot of people do it with meditation, eating better, maybe getting out of the city, go to the beach or something like that. But not everybody has access to that, right? Not everybody can do those things, and people buy these expensive biohacking equipment, like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what this can do is basically retunes your energy. So it changes your energy from the inside. So you become like the bell that rings, right? Like you bring a bell or a tuning fork, it's going to resonate out. So when you have that, then any frequency like EMF, cell phone radiation that comes within towards you won't have as much an effect. So you're basically more resilient, because there's two ways to fight all these MFs. One way is to block it, which is actually scientifically impossible. And the second way, like 100% of it, you can block some of it, but not all of it. The second way is actually increase your own resilience so that you are kind of like, you say, what's the word? Immune to it. Yeah.
Yeah, like you become your own force field.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your own Jedi force field. So Robert F. Kennedy, just like 10 years ago, that there were 10, maybe 13 years ago, he had thought he had a brain tumor. His uncle, Senator Ted Kennedy, had a brain tumor. So he thought, check this out. Turns out the surgeon said, you have a worm in your brain. And to many people, that was shocking. I don't know, for me, it wasn't, because I tend to think that as humans, we've got like microbiome, positive microbiome, we've got negative things in our bodies. And it doesn't surprise me. I know I've done my own parasite cleanse, as I said to the viewers. I don't know you well enough to go into those details. However, what are your thoughts about that news story as that hit mainstream?
Right. Well, it's just surprising that it's in the brain, but it's pretty common. Actually, 1 out of 5 Americans have a parasite somewhere in the body.
Right. There's all sorts of parasites. There's like flukes and tapeworms and pinworms, and I think I've had experience with dark field microscopy before, and I've even seen parasites in my own blood, and I know that the more toxic load a body has, including like heavy metals and glyphosates, usually the parasite load becomes even heavier.
Right. So basically, your body is like a forest, right, or a jungle. So if you don't have the right frequency, which we'll explain later on, you're going to have more likelihood of having viruses or bacteria or parasites in your body that, you're creating an environment that helps them proliferate and helps them grow, which is, undesirable, right?
So you had your own health challenges, which is kind of what put you on this path. Tell us, when you want to share that with us?
Right. So for 10 years, I had a disease as a chronic digestive disease that's incurable. I went to all the doctors and experts, and all they did was prescribe me medication, which only succeeded in giving me side effects. It didn't help at all. Yeah. And every day I suffered from chronic bleeding. I had no energy. I was anemic, and I couldn't focus because, of the brain fog, and I couldn't function as a human, and I couldn't even leave the house because of all the bleeding. So basically, after 10 years of suffering and depression, I just finally said I had enough. I got to make a change. So I went on a quest, and the quest led me to go back to my roots, which is in music, engineering, martial arts, qigong, right? And also I was I had a software development company, so I kind of combined all those things. Started to experiment with frequency technology, which combines sounds, magnetism, right, in order to improve myself. At first, I was just looking for a way to improve my meditation because I heard that sounds and frequencies could do that, which it did. But along the way, I accidentally healed myself from the chronic disease I had in 90 days.
Wow, that's amazing. It's not amazing to me. That's why I have you here, because I'm like, this solution is out there and a lot of people just don't know about it. Did you happen to catch the podcast with Joe Rogan and Terrence Howard? Because they kind of touched on some of these themes in a very big way. I think like 15 million views.
Yeah.
Watch that. What were your thoughts?
Well, I think people are starting to wake up to the idea that we are all frequency. And it's not just some woo-woo thing that people believe or something like that. It's actually scientific fact. We know that our body is actually mostly empty space. Only a tiny, like 0.0001% is a particle. Okay, so we're mostly empty space. So how do you change empty space? It's actually easier than you think. You just change the frequency. You think about the voltage coming out of your wall socket. There's a frequency. That's how you change the actual energy, right? So if you're all energy, how do you change ourselves? We change the frequency.
And so I'm one of those people who is extraordinarily sensitive. So I recently went and visited family in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. And I got there off the plane and got in a car and it was being driven. And I could just tell on a subtle energy level that they did not have the EMF load that I feel all the time in the United States. It was almost as if my central nervous system just took a deep breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's night and day. I mean, when you're, surrounded in the city, the busy city, you got Wi-Fi, EMFs, everybody's got a cell phone. We got like microwaves and like LCD screens, even LED screens. We're basically inundated on a day-to-day basis, and then we're wondering, why do we have all these chronic health issues? Well, that's a huge reason, and people are not even aware. The problem is that we can't avoid it because we have, most people can't live with their phones.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We have to function in a modern society that has a demand of participation in a technological way. But I know for myself that I'll start to get brain foggy if I've been around too much, what they call dirty, was it dirty air, dirty electricity?
Dirty electricity, yeah.
Yeah, when I'm around dirty electricity, and so it's, I love that you combine sound, magnetism, to adjust the, what the frequencies are.
Right.
So tell me some of the other things that, as a frequency expert, that you've helped the body with, or some of the platforms for.
Well, it's unlimited because we have actually 10,000 different programs that we have curated from people all over the world over the last 80 years.
My pedantic study of frequency medicine for myself and my own education. One of the devices is really popular is a Healy device, and I have a Healy. But one of the things that bothered me about that particular device, and this isn't negative, this might be my own ignorance, but I did not like that it ran through the cell phone because the programs run through the cell phone. So for me, I was like, that's to me not a secure platform, and it's also a contaminated frequency just by the nature of what a cell phone is. So tell me how your platform was different for the Key Coil.
Right. So, I mean, Healy is okay. It's an okay product, but I did a video on YouTube. You can check it out. Coil versus Healy. I go over about 10 different points why Coils are, better, in short. But basically, yeah, we don't need a phone to operate it. You can use a phone if you want, but you don't have to. You can download it and just run it offline if you want. You can play it from a computer. Second of all, you don't need to actually physically touch it. The Healy, you got to attach strings to you. There's a new one that's called Mag Healy, which is just a little disc, but it doesn't have a range. We have like these coils actually have 11 feet range. Can you think about, can you imagine 11 feet per coil? We even have the larger ones if you see in the back here. This is called a Chico Aura. It's actually 2 by 2 feet. It's this big. They're works of art and they're functional, and that covers 3,000 square feet. It covers your whole home. And so there's two huge differences. Third difference is we actually can use frequencies with just sound. So our sound frequencies are programmed in a way that can alter your thoughts and your emotions. And if you combine them with the use of Coils, which makes them into silent magnetic energy. So just so you can explain, I know it's a little confusing. You have sound, which you can hear, and you have magnetism, which you can't hear, but your cells can hear. Your cells can hear magnetic energy. So we kind of combine those two things and they layer on top of each other. So you get, basically we have the most advanced frequency wellness technology in the world right now.
Have you been harassed at all for putting this technology out?
Not really, not yet.
The coil has been that's been around for a while. You systematized it to your own system. Is that my understanding?
Well, I mean, the shape, this is a shape that's been around since the beginning of time. This is a shape of nature. Right. We see this in red blood cells, or you see the galaxy shape, it's called torus. Cool. So we basically combine the world's, I would say one of the best shapes for creating or propagating energy using this. And also the frequencies are based on frequencies from nature. Like we take like a supplement, or we can take a molecule, like let's say something that is very good for you, like glutathione, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say we take that and then we look at it on a computer software. We can see all the angles, we can see all the molecular weights, we see all the geometry of it, and then we convert it into a sound frequency. So we build off nature's actual geometries and numbers. So we combine that. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like in the Joe Rogan interview when Terrence Howard made the Saturn model, by studying all of the dimensions and the space of it.
Exactly. It's ancient knowledge. It's how they built the pyramids, right? Yeah. They built it based on what's occurring naturally, in the universe.
I'm part of some electrocurrent groups, or I think it's called, where you take the copper rods and then you use it for the plants. You put them in the plants and you put them in the trees. It's like really fun to do. It's a really fun hobby, but I also see very well that, the plants really respond quickly to it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. We've had, even without any frequencies, these coils will help plants grow. Like if you just unplug it and just put it on the soil, it'll help plants grow. Now, if you add frequencies, then that adds an even higher level of impact, because now you can wirelessly or affect a large area of crops. Even we have them being used in veterinary clinics. We have one of the largest animal chiropractic training programs that are recommending our product. We have psychiatric clinics with treating people with mental health disorders, some serious ones with it. And guess what's happening is not only are they getting results at improving their mental health, they report that they're getting healed from physical things that they never thought they would get healed from. Like, for example, we had a younger man who had a huge cyst on his arm. They were about to go get surgery for it. It was like 3 inches in diameter. It's gross. And what happened was 8 days later, we got a text message. It's like, he said, "Holy beep, beep," right? She swear. And then she's like, "You wouldn't believe it happened." It was like, "We thought something bad happened." It's like, "Okay, what happened? Tell us," right? It's like, the cyst is completely gone in 8 days. Day 8, and it's completely gone. We don't have to do surgery anymore.
David, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise about frequency medicine. I'm a big fan of it, and I would subscribe and prescribe to it. And if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe to us here or follow us. We'd love to hear from you as well. We've got more information below about Key Life if you're interested in David Wong's modality. We're certainly happy to have you here. Speaking of energy, we're sponsored by ST Energy Services, and we're happy to have them sponsoring us with their positive connection. And I'm Jacquie Jordan, and you can find out more about us on frontandcenterpodcast.com, as well as Rumble and YouTube and any place else that you listen to your favorite podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan podcast. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at TVGuestpert. We'd love to hear from you.